Welcome to Life in the Music Business, a masterclass with Professor Pooch and your host, BACEFACE.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to Life in the Music Business with Professor Pooch. Here at Life in the Music Business, we're all about self-empowerment for the music business entrepreneurs. How are you doing today, Pooch?
I'm doing fine. It's one of those, typical crazy days. What was really funny is that before I do a show like this or before I'm recording or something like that, I always have to make sure everything that's making noise is turned off. And it's really interesting because sometimes I'll have an alarm clock up here, a regular alarm clock to have like 3 different alarms if I really have to get up for some reason. And they'll tick tock,
Yeah.
So I got to turn that off or put it in another room or something. And then, the heater, you look for everything to turn off and stuff. So I don't know, it was about a year ago, reminded me about a year ago, I have my headphones on and I'm in that corner over there, and that's where I record like my books and courses and stuff, And everything I do is in audio, folks, as well as text. Okay. But I know I turned everything off and I'm in the middle of doing this passage in one of my courses or something. And I hear this really weird noise, like a crunchy kind of, noisy kind of thing. And I go, what the heck is that, And I'm going all over the place. And, I can't figure out what this. Now, this is a large room, folks. You can't see it. It goes further. And, and I'm wondering, what the hell's going on? Well, I learned a lesson that day, and that is always put the cat's crunchies somewhere where he can't jump up on it. Because he was crunching her away on his treats, man. And in the headphones or the microphone, man, it's blasting. What the hell's that going on? Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's different microphones that pick up a little bit different amount of space in the room. That's why dynamic microphones are sometimes good if you just want to block out all the background noise and stuff. That's why knowing microphones is super important for recording.
Yep. Yeah, the one I've been using, I'm going to point the right direction because this is mirrored. That's a Shure SM7B. You'll see it a lot of times on broadcast. It's a broadcast mic. And the funny part is rappers really like it too. And for whatever reason, I don't know, if that's what they like, that's what they like. But it's really good microphone, and it's got a couple filters. And I mean, I just do, when I heard there's noises and stuff, I can't have any noises because when I'm recording the books and courses, it's just me. There's nothing else like music or anything to knock it off. But what reminds me is that like everything I do is in audio as well as text and stuff like this. And somebody bought all my books and courses. I have a whole curriculum. Says, now, is this going to be all up to date? And like I told them, is that, 95% of his basics knowledge you need anyway. So, you can't escape that anyway. But I try to keep everything up to date. The texts are always well up to date. If something changes, like the copyright thing went from 55 to 65. And so I had to, take care of that, put that in there, things like that, things change. Okay. But like I said to him, first of all, they could watch these shows where we're really up to date. And boy, I'm going to give you some up to date stuff today. Or people know they could call me or they email me. My clients, people buy books and courses, or whatever. They know they can get in touch with me, the author, etc., to do things. But these shows, I want to keep everybody up to date also on everything too. And there's some interesting things happening that I thought everybody should know about. And especially since it has to do with packaging and it has to do with marketing and things like that, distribution, which is, I get so many calls and things on, you know, which distributor's best and all this stuff like this. So there's a couple new situations and things coming out and that are out actually that I thought I should bring up, and we'll get everybody up to date on some of this kinds of stuff, which is necessary nowadays. One of the things I wanted to bring up is we've been talking about the great thing about vinyl is its packaging. And in other words, it's a physical thing, and you could put other things into it and charge more money. Well, there's a new thing out that people are using, and it's been out, but people are finally realizing about it. It's called DDP. Now, what it is digital download. Okay, it's a digital download package, and the interesting thing about it is it's done through a zip file. Now, for people who don't know about zip files, it condenses everything into a much smaller package. So people could download much more stuff. So what people are starting to do is to make these amazing packages and they put it into a zip file. Now, what that means is you can use WAV files. You can give out WAV files. You can give out photographs. You can give out, all kinds of stuff you can pack digitally into it. And you could download it. Now, what has come up to me in the past is, well, Pooch, what about if I want to give it as a gift or something like that? Well, like I said, I can always put it onto a USB drive and, my books and courses and send it out that way. But this DDP is very interesting in that since it's a zip file, it's a much smaller file. It downloads much quicker. You can put videos in there. You can put whatever you want and charge a half decent amount of money, and it comes directly to you.
Yes, and
That's
I've seen
great.
a lot with in the producer world when it comes to sample packs, melody packs, and stuff like that. You can go online, and some people sell the packs for $50. Some people sell for $100, but it's all a culmination of the WAV files that are compressed, which turn into a zip file that are easily able to be sent to across the world. And it cuts the file size of the whole folder almost in half.
Yeah, and well, the thing is with an artist, they should take advantage of this kind of a situation where they could put all kinds of stuff in there, and it's a download package, but it's condensed. And you could use, instead of just dumb MP3s, they could have high quality MP3s. I mean, there's all kinds of, you could put all different kinds of things. Use your imagination. Printable PDF files, things like that with photos. They can do that. It's amazing what you can do looking to, because people are complaining, God, this streaming, I ain't making anything and stuff. Well, there's that. What we've been talking about often is that multiple sources of income. Here's a source of income where people can have all this personalized stuff they get in their own download and stuff like that. And you can charge a half decent amount of money for it, depending on, maybe just more expensive packages by putting more photos and, whatever you put into it. But it's like personalized to the person.
Yeah.
And
Basically a product. It's just a digital product, so you don't even have to worry about drop shipping it or any shipping or packaging, any type of stuff like that. All you have to worry about is just the stuff that you're going to put in the folder and how you're going to promote it and stuff. And I think that's a really good stream of income for a lot of upcoming people because it goes across the board. It could be an engineer selling templates. It could be a producer selling samples. It could be a songwriter selling melodies. There's a lot of different ways to be able to make profit off of it. But at the end of the day, it's being able to reach the people that would be interested in buying your product. That is the most important part of this, because unless you try to get yourself out there, nobody's going to know about you or about what you have to offer.
Well, that's the big key. It's like I always tell people, you could be the most creative person in the world with the greatest product and all that stuff. But if nobody ever hears about you, it's one of those things. So taking this some steps further, and that is, well, I'll hit you, I can hit it from several angles, but let's go by this. What the major labels want is an easy way to find people. And of course, artists want an easy way to get to a major label. Now, if that's what their aim is, and where I'm going to explain of what's some of the things that are happening, it's up to you where you go, but you can have some help along the way, even if you decide not to go with the major. So let me make some sense out of this whole thing. First of all, I mean, what's become very popular are sites like Bandcamp, where the artists, if they sell something, the money comes directly to them. See, let me explain the way it works on Spotify and Pandora and all that stuff. See, all this money goes into a big pot. All the money comes into this big pot. Okay, fine. So what they do is they divvy up the money by who has the most sales is going to get the most of that piece of the pie, who has the next to the most, and, all the way down the line. So the independent artist, is like the last person in the totem pole to get paid. So like, the way it's split up, and so the big money goes to, obviously it helps when they're doing the streaming and stuff, it helps the major artists and stuff like that who are getting this split of the pie. Now, what Bandcamp is doing is basically that you can hit your fans directly and they pay you directly. You don't have to lose all that, money you have to put out for this and that and whatever, okay? And it's become a fairly important place for startup artists. And it's become pretty popular. So, of course, everybody's seeing what's happening. Some other companies are coming into it from some interesting angles, and I'm going to be tying this all together. And that is, let's take SoundCloud. SoundCloud just bought a company called Repost. And what it is, it allows them, now what'll happen is like they're going to charge you like $30 a year, but you get 100% of all the money. If they, if they buy your product, somebody, it comes directly to you. But they also act as a distributor and distribute every place else. So in other words, for all these Spotifys and everything like that, the artist is going to get 80%, but the ones that are direct, that it's that artist's stuff, they're going to pay them the whole 100%. And that's like 30 years. Oh yeah. It's 80% from the, if I didn't say this correctly, 80% when it's placed on, Spotify and all that stuff, they'll do the collecting fee just like a distributor. But the 100% when somebody buys your product on SoundCloud, the money comes directly to you.
Wow.
Now, let's go a step further, and then we can discuss all this kinds of stuff. I'm just setting up the picture. As I had said, the major labels are, want a way to find the top artists and things like that. The artists want to get to these major labels. Well, the major labels see that the independent artists are basically taking over the large amounts of sales and stuff like that. So what's happening is Sony, who's a major label, there's basically 3 major labels right now: Sony, Warner Music Group, and Universal Music Group. When I started out, there was 6 majors. It keeps, like I joke, it's going to be one company in 2050 owns all the other companies. So what happened is Sony found this company. It was part of Cobalt. Cobalt started as a publishing, and then they went to helping artists and stuff. And other things, and they're selling off parts of it. And Sony bought up a company from Cobalt called, well, it's capital A, capital W, capital A, capital L. AWAL. Now, this is becoming a very interesting situation because you get the chance of presenting yourself to your stuff to a major label. Now, what it is, it's not going directly to a major label, but Sony's A&R department is going to check you out and to see if they want to let you in. They're going to be filters. And the filters mean certain amount of sales and this and that and all, everything else, they're filters. So they're good at working as a distributor and stuff like that. And the low end of it is called AWAL Core. Now they're going to work like a distributor, but to get into it, you're going to have to pass these certain algorithms. And in simple fact, you have a certain amount of streams. They like your stuff. They'll listen, certain amount of streams, a certain amount, YouTube followers, this and that, and everything else. They're going to be checking this out. And there's an interesting part about this whole process to keep in mind, and we'll come back to it, is the artist is not giving up their copyrights. In other words, they're holding on to their publishing money, songwriting publishing, and they're holding on to that copyright and also to the copyright, of the recordings. Remember, we've talked about it in the past, there are two different copyrights. And they're not being asked to give this up. Now, what it is, there's different tiers that you can rise up. So they're going to be picky who's coming even into the first tier. But at that point, what's going to happen, even with the core, they're only going to take 15% for doing your distribution. And they're going to open you up to certain amounts of marketing and distribution to an extent. It still wants to see you doing what you're supposed to be doing. And by the way, it really fits with what I do with the 3-step program and stuff. You need to make a certain amount of buzz or nobody's going to touch you. No matter how good you are, you got to have a certain amount of sales and streams and followers and likes and all that kinds of stuff. So that must be kept in mind. So you still got to work into that situation. But here you have a situation where you can move up in line and get more and more help while keeping your copyrights. You're not giving up your publishing company. You're not giving up your record company. So what happens is, like I said, a small amount of people are going to be able to get through this, A&R algorithm and all that stuff. And they're going to work with you to a certain extent, and they're only going to take 15%. Fine. Okay. For distributing, all over the place and stuff like that. Now, even a smaller amount, when they see they're watching you, Sony's people are watching you. And if you could build it up to the next level, then you become part of AWAL Plus. Now, an AWAL Plus, and by the way, this is just an example of the way things are going. Major labels see they have to adjust because they're losing the top people, and you'll see. So what happens with the AWAL Plus, they're going to take 30% of everything you make. But you keep your ownership, and they start putting money into you. In effect, you're almost like you're with a small label. Picture a small label putting money into you, a marketing and distribution, and getting you sync stuff, sync licensing stuff, and help you out in all these different marketing paths. Okay. Then there is this third level, and this is where you have to make an interesting decision. In the third level is AWAL Records. Now, it's like works like a label, and they're going to put even more money into you, and they're going to really push. Now, people at this point have reached pretty, they're starting to get pretty well known because of all that's going on with everything, their own help, plus the help of this AWAL. So what happens is, at this point, if you decide to go with AWAL Records, they're going to take either like a 50-50 deal or a 40-60, 60-40, in that kind of thing, like a label. But there's an interesting part about this situation at this point. And by this point, the majors are watching, and they see that with AWAL contracts up to that point, it's easy to get out of them. It's just that they don't last long, and they don't own the copyrights, the artist does. So at this point, a major label, you can go with the AWAL if you want, move up that route with this 50-50 deal and stuff like that, this AWAL Records, or a major sees what's happening and swoops in, and you have your choice of going with them or going your own, whatever you want to do. It's a new way of going up tiers to reach the major, because I don't know if anybody ever tried it. I mean, it's been since even starting in the 80s, 1990s, you couldn't go directly to a record company. They're only going to listen to well-known managers, well-known producers, well-known entertainment attorneys. They're not going to listen to you. I used the joke, it was a true story, of somebody sent out a ton to every major and subsidiary, sent out a package and got everyone back, because they don't want to get in a situation, he stole my song, and stuff like that. So this is another avenue of what's going on in the music industry as it's adjusting to things. It's letting you prove yourself on your way up. But the interesting part is you can leave at any level. At the same point, there are majors watching you as you go up. They're going to see that, even in the first core level, they're going to see. They're not going to move you up to the plus, AWA plus, until they see a certain amount of movement. Now, they're going to be helping you and stuff like that. But now you've reached this thing, and they're going to help you even more, and just worldwide and marketing and this and that, and see what happens. They're still watching you. And this is just, in this case, Sony's version of it. Sony's A&R people are watching you. So here's are more avenues for the modern artist to get involved in. Now, as I said, from the very beginning, one of the shows, I'm sure I mentioned it too, no matter whether you want to go with the major or want to stay independent or anything in between, like with a small indie label or something like that, you still got to start out on your own. That's why I recommend, you go through these steps, my 3-step thing is, get business legal, make sure you register everybody getting paid. Third step is to have a plan of action, which most artists don't have. But here's a route for the people who want to have some more help than just their friends and super fans and maybe even a manager. A matter of fact, some managers might say, hey, let's go with this AWAL and see what happens, because they're putting money into you and you're keeping your copyrights, folks. That's the key. You hear the big wars going on. Hey, I can't. Well, the Taylor Swift thing with she couldn't re-record any of her stuff for 10 years and things like that. Well, if you hold the ownership, you don't have to ask permission from anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works, especially nowadays. A lot of people are being more educated on the fact that they're supposed to own all their stuff and not just be selling everything away for an upfront price, which typically is way undervalued than what the music is actually worth. So this is working to the artist's advantage. So you have to kind of just go back, listen to all of our episodes, and be able to reacclimate yourself with everything that goes on in the industry, because I know a lot of people that are releasing music and a lot of people that are doing things in music but have no idea where the money is coming from, and that they can get paid 6 or 7 different ways off of one song. So unless you're able to have that knowledge to be able to put all those ducks in a row, then you're not going to be able to make this as profitable as you want. In return, you may give up a little earlier than you ever would have, because you don't see the return that you were looking for.
Well, it's like the Beatles took 7 years before anybody heard of them, basically. I mean,
and they got turned down by everybody too.
Turned down by everybody, I mean, we can go into all kinds of stories of how that all happened and stuff. But one of the major mistakes came up today with I received a phone call, and I'll leave it at that because I can't name things and stuff, where people are in such a rush to get this stuff out without having everything in place to actually track it, where you can get paid, where you're protected, where this and that. I mean, there's no plan of action. It is wanted out there and stuff, and they don't realize the problem. Yeah, I believe in moving quick, but not making mistakes along the path. You need to follow a direct, make sure certain things are in place. Like, are you signed to your own companies? Do you have an LLC if you're trying to protect yourself from being sued for, he stole my song? Because, folks, I'll guarantee you have a song really doing really well, and people are going to try to say I wrote that sort of stuff. That's why you want everything in place where you're signed to your own companies, your publishing as a songwriter, your record company. And then when you're doing the copyrights and stuff, you have the publishing company as the owner, because you've signed a contract to yourself. So you have that. It's going to ask you, how's your name different? Why is this name of the owner of your songs different than the writers? It's by written agreement, which is that contract you signed to your own company.
Interesting too, because I've been seeing a lot of people posting content on Instagram trying to teach the music business. And one, they're in the beginning stages of their career, so some of the advice that they're giving is not necessarily true. And where I was kind of going with this is the copyrights, right? So a lot of people say, oh, as soon as you make the song, it's copyrighted, and that you don't need to go and copyright it. And that is completely false, because if somebody tries to come after your song and say that they own it, the only way you can prove that you are the sole owner of that song is if you have it registered with the copyright division of the government.
Well, that's the key word, registered. It is true. As soon as the copyright law says, and this is just as of 1976 version of copyright law, which took them, the first copyright laws that were put in effect were 1909. It took to the 76. Now things are changing all the time because of the digital stuff. Let's go back here. 1976, what it says is, and still true today, as soon as it's affixed to something tangible, it's considered copyrighted. And the matter of fact is, what that means in English is, as soon as you can see it or hear it, it's copyrighted. But that's not going to hold up in most cases in a court of law. It's registering your copyright.
And I find that interesting too, because I know people that think that just because they created the song, it's automatically copyrighted. But if they were to run into a situation where the song pops off and some crooked lawyer or somebody in the industry realizes that there's no copyright for that song, what are they going to do? They're going to take that song and copyright it under their name. And guess what? There's not much, you can't really do anything about that.
And not just that, It's worse. Well, I don't know which is worse. Also, if you didn't trademark your name, you know,
Yeah.
uh, I think I even gave an example of previous shows where this one manager owned the trademark of the girl group he had. It was number one hit and stuff. It was out of Philly, actually. And what he would do is through the years, he would put three different groups out under the same name on the same night doing the same songs because he owned the trademark, the name. Like people say, oh, Pooch, how do I copyright your name? No, you can't copyright it. You can trademark a name, a title, or a short phrase. You can't copyright a name, title, or short phrase. And, you know, if you have these logos or whatever, that's trademarking. There's,
Yep.
copyright is,
And for the
different.
people out there, I actually have BACEFACE trademark, BACEFACE. You can do the search online and see it, and it covers a large span of stuff. But I did it early on in my career for protection because I wanted to make sure that nobody could touch that name, you know. And there are some people that come in here and there a different spelling, but that I could technically go after them. But there's no reason to do that, you know.
Oh, some interesting things can come up with trademarks. I'll tell you that. It's just like certain words get into the normal everyday vernacular in simple language. You say, hey, hand me a Kleenex. And if Kleenex finds out about it, they have to say, no, hand you a tissue, not a Kleenex. Because what's happening, the name Kleenex is becoming public domain almost, and they can't have that happen. Same thing. If you go into a store and ask for a Coke and they only have Pepsi, they are supposed to say, we don't have Coke, we have Pepsi. They can't hide it. The owning of a name, I mean, that's you, who you are.
Yeah, it's a big deal too. And I mean, that is something you could hold on for the rest of your life. You know, the trademarks last a long time. And
Well, no, trademarks last 10 years. You have to renew
well, that's good to know. Well, I'll worry about that in another
them.
years.
No, you have to renew it. A funny one on that is Japan put out a car. I just, wait a minute, how are they putting out this car? Somebody didn't, renew the trademark on I forget which car it was, but a well-known car from the past in the United States. They trademarked, a Japanese car maker trademarked the name. So, I mean, all these things could happen. By the way, just like with the copyright, you can put a TM, like BACEFACE, even if you didn't have the trademark yet, could put the TM up there legally. Just like with the copyright, you could put circle with the C, the year, and the person who owns it, whether it's a personal name or a publishing company, for example. You can use that. It's called the copyright notice. And you could use it before you copyright, just like trademark before you trademark. But if you wanted to stand up in court and not have somebody take your name, you better think about that.
Yeah, it's very important because even if you're doing things like for me, like there was a while there that I was performing all the time and I wanted to protect the name for my own sake because I knew that it was a good name and it meant something to me, and it would be a shame if somebody else were to go and take that from me because I wasn't prepared to pay the money or I didn't want to come out of pocket because money was tight at the time. But I scrummaged it together, and believe it or not, I filed my trademark myself, and that's with the help of the internet. It helped me a lot, but
Yeah.
I would definitely advise a professional when it comes to that stuff. But I ended up just filing it myself, and then I hired an attorney to finish off the process for me once it kind of went through the initial proceeding.
Well, you had a very good reason for trademarking your name. You were out there as a performer. And that's a very good reason because somebody might buy it up. As you found out, and we have when we looked up different .coms and stuff, people would buy up the ones they think would be worth something at some future time, and then you have to pay an exorbitant amount of something. The truth of the matter, I think it was iTunes to buy it off this company from France who something person from France. I think it was France. To get the name iTunes, it cost them $10 million to just get that .com.
Yeah, it's insane. Like if you like, if I had a laptop when I was 2 years old, I would have been able to buy domains and be able to sell them for $10 million now, 20 years later. You know, and it's crazy because those domains, people don't realize how important it is. It's almost like the way I can equate it is like it's similar to the how real estate works. When you own a house, like if you own that house, you own it, you pay it off. Same thing with your real estate online. If you own a .com, you own that unless you give it up or stop paying for it.
You have to pay it every year.
Yeah, unless
It's a
you
renewal.
stop paying for it. But the problem is with a lot of the social media that people don't really process and understand or even realize is that, yeah, you're on all major platforms, social media, the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these cool platforms. But if Twitter or Instagram or Facebook were to shut down one day, or if they banned you and didn't let you use their platform anymore, and say Instagram was my number one source for all my fans, and one day I said something stupid by accident and I got banned by Instagram,
Oh,
then then, you know what I mean? Then everything that I've ever worked for disappears. That's why.
oh, I've had friends kicked off Facebook. I think some of my friends just do it for fun, try to see how far they can go without getting kicked
Yeah,
off.
it's interesting to see that, but
But the truth of the matter is, and I always cover it in step 3 of the 3-step program, the truth of the matter is, excuse me, is one of the things I push is you need to have your own website, that .com, a .com, not through anybody else, your own. I'm Professor Pooch.com. And you know what I'm saying? You have to have that .com at yours. This way, you want a central place you could drive everybody from your social media, from wherever, your newsletters, whatever. You want to drive them there because here's where you can keep. Hey, you could have merchandise for sale. You could have blogs. You could have, oh, I'm performing next. I'm doing a live stream, it's only $10, whatever you want. It keeps, you want to drive them. And you could sell this, even your recordings, it's those DDPs and things like that, or whatever, right on your site. The 3 biggest places, what are it's basically the iTunes family, kind of thing. It's Spotify and your site. Your site, Amazon sells this and this and that. You want to drive people to your own site where you could put everything there. And we talked about, I think it was the last episode or the one before. No, last episode, but it hasn't been put out yet, I don't think. And that is the EPK, electronic press kit, you can have as a section on one of your sites and stuff like that. All right, so let's sum up everything that we've been discussing today. Yep, make sure that you're not moving so fast that you're not protected in different ways. That's very important. If you have to re-listen to this episode for everything, please do, okay? We covered a lot of stuff in this episode. Yes, but there's also new things to keep up to date with these different, now with Sony inviting people to work up their tiers way, TIERS, to get onto a major label. And through the whole path, the great thing is you're holding on to your copyright through this. It's the same thing through Bandcamp. Sony's doing it. SoundCloud is now working out a way to help you in different ways where you can get direct money. We're talking about that. We're talking about copywriting. Oh, a funny thing well, it's not funny. Actually, I got somebody out of a contract because of this. Most people, for past tense of copyright, they say, oh, my song was copywritten. Folks, it's a different spelling even. Copywritten is WRITTEN. Copywritten means usually like ad copy and things like that. Okay? Now, the thing is, the past tense is copyrighted. If you look at the word copyright, it's COPYRIGHT. In other words, you have the right to copy. You own that copyright. So past tense is copyrighted. And I actually, this is a funny story in a way because it helped my client, so it worked great. It was a 3-girl group, and they were signed to this manager, and she was complaining, oh, you can't break up this contract, stuff, you know. First of all, the name of your group was copywritten, and that's what she said. Okay, the group is copyrighted. First of all, you can't copyright. Yeah, I said, how could you be? I told her, how could you? You broke it right here. It's copyrighted, and you can't copyright a name. You have to trademark a name, which we did talk about today also. So I think that sums it up. Did I miss anything? We covered a lot today in a little bit of time. So please, folks, listen. If you have to listen to it several times. But yes, in short, make sure you're taking it serious, your career. It's not a hobby. Get your business and legal and everything in, you're set for life if you do it right. Where if you say, independent and stuff like that. But then, there's now these new ways of where you don't have to wait and get a tiny little 0.0003 cents and things, where you can get your sales with some of these companies directly. People buy your recording, you're paid directly, and they'll still cover you with these other companies, other DSP, digital service providers, and things like that. So I think that basically covered what we did today, correct?
We covered a lot of different stuff today, but it comes down to the importance of being preventative and actually taking charge and taking it professional, the professional route to your music career. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be taken serious, you have to be able to be working with contracts and working at the same level of the people that you want to be working with. Otherwise, they'll never take you serious, and that's why that's like one of the the fundamentals of this entire show is that you must be protected. So at the end of the day, take that extra moment to take the deep breath and don't worry about rushing and putting out the song because somebody else you saw that put out a song and
that's that. You're focusing on them instead of yourself. That's ridiculous.
Just focus on yourself and get it done right, because I promise you, in the long run, it'll make way more sense once everything clicks together. But right now, because you're in the beginning stages or whatever what stage you are in your career, it may not make 100% sense right now. But over time, it'll all click together as it has for me and continues to do for me, learning from Pooch for the last 3 years. So just stay positive, stay focused, and stay protected.
Yeah, and it's like you said, and it doesn't matter which stage you are in your career. Some people come to me, well, I put out 3 different albums. I say, okay, fine. We could actually get some stuff back money-wise from that with Sound Exchange when we get to that kinds of thing. I had a friend who didn't know about Sound Exchange. He signed up, and they had $12,000 for him waiting. They didn't know who to give it to. So that's why you got to really get your stuff together and do it right. And just handle it, even if it's you have 3 albums out. Okay, move further, keep going, and start from there. At that point, we'll go back and we'll fix some of your old stuff. We can get you some things out of it, but also now you're set up for the future, and that's really important. I'm going to simply say right here, tune in for the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Tune in for the next episode.